Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. I'm here to review a brand new movie, and that movie is called Halloween Aftermath.
For the past 2 years, this town has tried to forget about Michael Myers. It's tried to move on. It's tried to heal.
This movie was released into YouTube October of 2025. It is written by Cole Tatham and directed by James Grimm. It is starring Ryan Jaski, Selena Rescott, Sarah Silverson, Sincere Temple, Summer Martin, Cameron Gaxiola as the Shape, Jason Yekis, Natasha Perry, Henry Hetz, and Nicholas Von Gavin. This is a fan-made Halloween film that picks up right after where the David Gordon Green trilogy left off. And it is starring a bunch of young people who are dealing with the aftermath of what Michael Myers did in Halloween and his return to Haddonfield after a whole new crew of characters. So it's funny what I just say about this movie being made by a YouTuber. Right in the wake of Chris Stuckman's Shelby Oaks, here comes someone else on YouTube making a film. Now this is a lot different because Shelby Oaks took a long time. It was funded through Kickstart. Chris Stuckman has been working on it for a very long time, and he then got picked up by Neon and so forth, so his ended up having a big theatrical release, whereas this one, I think, straight up is just fans. I don't really know much about Cole, the man who edited, or Cole Edits is the channel it's on. So, I'd have to say this movie looks like it was made by a studio. You would not really know that it was a fan-made film, except for that it's a fan-made film. So even though it's connected to Halloween, is it official Halloween lore? No. But it's really neat. It really develops what David Gordon Green was doing. I was getting this vibe of it felt like it was kind of picking up after Halloween Kills. And it was like maybe this guy wasn't a fan of Halloween Ends, and this is like his version of Halloween Ends. And it's pretty neat. I mean, the mask, the characters, the acting, the cinematography. I mean, everything's really decent for people who, the movie starts off and it says no money's being profited on this. No one's getting paid. So, it was very clear that a lot of work and a lot of effort was put into this movie. Probably almost the same amount of effort and work that they put into regular movies, and they don't have that big studio backing to help them. So let's get into what worked, what was mixed, and what was the negatives on Halloween Aftermath. Okay, so let me just break down the characters in this movie. You have Cole, who is the main star, and his sister Marnie, and then he has a girlfriend or a girl of interest named Abby. And you have their friend group, Remy and Kevin. And then you have Lachlan Tramer, who is almost like another antagonist in this movie. And then his girlfriend, Belle. There's a few other side characters, but they kind of don't have too much to do or get killed off fairly quickly. So what's part of the positives on this one is definitely the fact that this is a fan-made film, but you barely can tell it. I mean, it's very well edited. It's very well put together. I think there's good camera work for the majority of it. There's decent music. Now, they obviously use some of the Halloween music, but then there's other music that they must have added to it. That's decent. Another part where this one stands out is the kills, when they happen, are very intense and gory. For the majority of the kills are decent. And the last thing that I think I'd put in a positive is just the overall acting, considering that I don't think obviously any of these people are famous or professionals, and you know, they do a decent job. I mean, I could see many of these characters, you know, many of these people, if they're noticed by Hollywood, getting parts in bigger movies. You know, the company that was attached to this said A63. I thought that was kind of funny. You know, A24, but this is A63. So maybe they think they're an upgrade or something, or maybe they're a real company. I have no idea. You know, I had just mentioned recently in one of my other videos, you know, that I had directed Halloween movies, and it was mostly like home video style movies that I did with my kids and my friends. But, you know, I understand just from doing it a little bit as a very side hobby what goes into trying to editing and producing and recording and getting people to do a movie, especially when they're not paid professional actors. And it's work, and it's intense. So, you know, like I said, props to Chris Stuckman, props to this team of people who put this movie together. So now let's get into what I'm mixed about it. You know, no matter what, you know, I take into a fact that, you know, this is a fan-made film, but there are still mixed parts of to, you know, where I think there can be improvement on, or what didn't, you know, what I'm not sure on yet. So I think the big thing was, you know, they decided to be like an part of the Halloween, like, extension of the David Gordon Green trilogy. It was giving me a very much of more of a Halloween Kills vibe. You know, they were kind of, the people in the town are irritated, and they want to be done with Michael Myers. You know, they're all about that evil dies tonight. Now, there's none of that, like, that extreme in this movie, but like, it was kind of a very similar vibe. Like, they were talking about like what went down during Halloween Kills in this movie, and how people were drunk at the bar, and then, you know, stormed the streets looking for Michael Myers. So there's a lot of, like, it literally is called Aftermath. So, like, I think they did a decent job of, you know, creating an aftermath story of what happened afterwards. But what leaves me mixed on it, you know, was like, did it really feel like Haddonfield? I'm wondering, did they even film in the same locations? Most likely not. It seemed like there was a shot of the Myers house that it was like they had kind of maybe edited off as something else. I'm not sure. Maybe they went and actually filmed it. But overall, the whole, you know, I think in a fan-made film, and I even talked about this, like, the next Halloween needs to be a fresh start, like, with total new storyline, total new characters. You know, Laurie Strode's been done. Dr. Loomis has been done. You know, I think this definitely has a new batch of characters, but they kind of are sub-attached to the Haddonfield crew that we have already. And even with one of the characters being last named of Tramer, obviously that's probably a descendant of Ben Tramer. And this will bring me to the negative. So in this one, I really feel like it's just, okay, so when I looked it up on YouTube, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And I feel like that includes the commercials that might be in it. Maybe not. That's kind of long for a horror movie to begin with. And I was hesitant to even press play. I thought 2 hours and 15 minutes for a fan-made film. Now, I'd heard good things about it, so I pressed the button, and I didn't regret it. But I feel like 2 hours and 15 minutes is long for a slasher. I mean, this definitely could have shaved off like 40 minutes. And I would say with the story that they had, they could have easily shaved off 40 minutes with some of the pointless scenes, some of the, like, lingering longer shots that seem to be really long for no reason. I think in this one, like, there was like 6 or 7 kind of what seemed to be the main crew of this group of young kids. And then there was also a bunch of additional characters, which, like, I think of, for example, there was this one scene where this, like, older guy, somewhat older guy, and a younger kid are off and about somewhere. Michael Myers shows up. And, like, that was a pretty long part. I'm thinking there's an easy thing that could have been cut out, you know, because it wasn't really pertaining to the group of kids that were in this story. You know, and it's funny how I heard many people saying similar things about Shelby Oaks, like, Chris Stuckman did great at directing a movie, but the writing was kind of messed up there. And I could somewhat agree with that. I mean, I really did enjoy Shelby Oaks. And I feel like the same is kind of present here, where, like, The writing definitely could use some work. I mean, the story is, I mean, I feel like it's definitely, they took the basic plan of any decent slasher, but some of the dialogue's a little clunky. Some of the performances here and there are clunky, but like I said, it wasn't that bad considering these aren't real professional paid actresses and actors. I think as far as, like I said, in the positive, most of the kills were in the positive. The one girl's kill, though, I just felt like this one girl gets thrown out of a car, and there's no lead up to her getting caught up with Michael Myers. They just cut to her dying. And I thought, I mean, maybe they were cutting spots to shrink down the runtime, but I mean, it really just cuts to a kill, and I thought, ooh, okay. But you know what? It was a fairly decent kill. There was just no lead up to it. I'm not going to go into any major spoilers on this. I'm not going to recap the entire storyline except for what the basic premise of what I said already. Um, I will just say that I did have some characters that I kind of enjoyed, and some of them just kind of blended into nothing for me. I will mention that. There was a character, Remedy. She kind of was giving me Nancy Thompson's vibes from A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I feel like there was maybe some homages. There was definitely some homage kills to certain things in Halloween. Like Halloween 2 kill, which definitely stood out, where a girl gets her head pushed in water. It wasn't as intense as the Halloween hot tub kill, but it reminded me of it. And there was another kill that reminded me of, well, I wouldn't say kills, maybe. I just felt like, obviously, the guys that did this, they seem to maybe like the Rob Zombie versions of Halloween. They seem to be influenced a little bit by Rob Zombie. The characters were definitely not as rough and gruff as the Rob Zombie characters, but some of these characters had an edge to them. You know, a really rough edge in some of them. The main guy, Cole, he was really good. You know, he had to really do some emotional parts. I was really impressed with him. I would say that the whole storyline was like this boy who cries wolf meets Halloween. I mean, as far as what the story was, I kind of didn't understand like how it opens with him having a confrontation with Michael Myers, but like no one believed, because nothing came of it. Like no one believed him. I don't know. I just thought that was odd, but I guess that's where they were going with how they wanted this story to play out. There was another character, Lachlan Tramer. I just felt like that character was just so extreme to me. He reminded me of this character that I had mentioned in a movie that I reviewed earlier this year called The Bayou, where the character was just so nasty, so evil, just said such downright awful things that I just couldn't wait for this character to die. Now, in The Bayou, that character survives. I won't tell you what happens in this movie, but you're pretty much waiting for the Tramer kid to get it. He was just really extreme and rough. He's part of this peer group meeting, and then he comes back later. He's really mean to his girlfriend. Like, I don't even understand how this girl stays dating him. It just, he was a rough character. Girl, who, I mean, it seemed like there was a final guy, but the final girl was Abby, and I thought she was really cute. She really brought a nice roundabout to this kind of gruffer bunch of characters. And I even liked like her costume design, like her outfit. She just looked like the perfect final girl from Halloween or Friday the 13th or even Elm Street. You know, she really just was the full package, and I liked her performance as well. Okay, so before I wrap it up completely, I will just comment on what I thought of Michael Myers. I thought overall they did do a decent job of putting a decent Michael Myers in there. He seemed a little heftier, which was fine. That didn't bother me too much. I felt like he was very similar to the Michael Myers that we got in Halloween Ends, like the same mask, the same look. Though in some parts the mannerisms were a little bit different. You could tell that this guy sometimes was faster paced than the typical walking Michael Myers. But overall, I'd say he was a decent Michael Myers. He was better than some of the Michael Myers in the actual franchise. So I'm going to get down to business on this one, because I will just say I do think that this is worth a watch. It is streaming on YouTube. The entire movie is on YouTube. If you search Halloween Aftermath, it pretty much comes right up. I think the channel is Cole Edits. I recommend watch it. I mean, I watched, there was some hype around a YouTube movie last year called Milk and Cereal. I watched that and I wasn't that impressed by it. I feel like this is better than that in my personal opinion. That was a found footage. This is straight up a Halloween copycat, homage, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's worth at least a one-time watch. I don't know if this has high rewatchability factor in it. It just depends on your taste, I would guess. But check it out. And I'm giving it a basic burger. I mean, it gets the job done. And considering it's just a fan-made film, I mean, I think that's a good grade for a fan-made. Because when I look at my fan-mades, they probably would rate lower in quality. So please, like, subscribe, press that notification bell, all that jazz, and don't forget to stay scared of those psycho killers that linger on in the aftermath of Halloween.
You're finished. You're done.
Run! Go!